Against this right back, Charlie. That's right.
Because you always used to active red back, defend it. I think it's like.
People deluded, I'm back again.
Come on, Ian. Come on.
Charlie?
You cut me off there, man. You threw me. But yeah, as Alex just said, it's jolly settings, man. People deluded, I'm back again. We've done a lot of these shows. By now, I imagine you already know that we're the dynamic duo. In my opinion, we're better than Saliba and Gabriel. Again, I can't imagine you don't know about Alex's platform, but make sure you're subscribed to the Different Knock. He does a great bunch of content. And I do think he does a great job of considering the bad, the negative, providing balance, and whatever you want to do with that information is down to you. Obviously, it's been a bit of a break for Arsenal. It has been a bit of a downer where our results are at. My first question to you is, as an Arsenal fan, obviously, with having a bit of breathing space, with us being in Dubai, how are you feeling about the football club? How are you feeling about the club you support? And how are you feeling about Arsenal right now, my guy?
Good morning, Treacle. Yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun to see the responses. I say fun. Yeah, maybe fun's the wrong word. It's been interesting, isn't it? I think firstly, to sort of take the temperature gauge of an entire fan base is really hard. And I think a lot of time you see people go, Arsenal fans say this, and you're sort of like, I don't really know who you mean. Do you mean
one man speaks for a million?
Yeah. Do you mean your friends? Do you mean the sort of the loud voices you see online? Do you mean Dave at the pub? Like who do you mean? So I suppose I can only really speak for myself. I personally have been interested in sort of where the conversation's gone, and we are all having a bit of a referendum. I think so from my perspective, we're having
That's a great way of putting it. That's a referendum. That's fantastic.
Yeah, we are. We've been asked the question, yeah, leave or remain, and it's about as nuanced as that conversation was. That there is a, we're looking at the manager, we're looking at the players, we're looking at the signings, we're looking at we're looking at everything. We're looking at absolutely everything and saying, "Are we okay? We're doing the right thing." While we're sat 3 points off City.
I don't look at the league table, but that's good.
Yes. Oh, sorry. I shouldn't mention it. I watched a little bit of your, because I'd never watched any of your Football Manager streams, and I clicked on it yesterday while I was making some food, and you said it in you beat Chelsea, and then you said it in your press conference. I don't look at the league table. So it's so consistent.
You got to do the PR stuff, man.
Yeah. But no, look. I completely understand people's frustrations, and I share them, and I have them, and we'll talk through them. There are lots of things to discuss, but it is interesting that a little bit of a slump, even when we're not that far off the top and whatever, it can cause. I'm looking at like, we haven't scored a goal from a free kick since September 2021. I'm part of it too, and I'm going, is that? Do we need to sort that out? Do we need to get a free kick specialist in? So there's when things go wrong, there is always a bit of a referendum, and it's difficult to tell what the general populace are feeling.
You're right there with that, man. Let's start there. You said there's a lot to discuss and a lot of concerns. Let's kind of break it down a bit. Yeah, let's talk about the manager, because as you said with your analogy about the referendum, we live in a day and age where there's hyper opinions. I personally think, again, I'm speaking for a fan base that I have no evidence, but it does feel like definitely where you see popular voices, there's no in between about Mikel Arteta, And for what it's worth, if people do or don't believe in him wholeheartedly, you're allowed to do that. I am not an Arteta sexual. I'm definitely not part of the Mikel Arteta out brigade. I do think both parties say some things that make sense. I personally support Arsenal Football Club. If there comes a time where I don't necessarily believe in Mikel Arteta, or he's not the guy, or he's the guy that's rebuilt the team, if he's the guy to win us a Premier League trophy or Champions League, etc., then those are necessary conversations at the time. Me personally, even if people want him sacked, I don't agree with sacking him now if that is the case, because you're gonna have to write off the season. Fair enough, there isn't too much to salvage, but in terms of fighting in the Champions League and the Prem, and just simply put, we're in December, the league ends until May. There are, I wouldn't want to give that up. But what sort of concerns have you got regarding the Gafferdom, if any?
Well, firstly, on what you said, I think multiple truths can exist at the same time. Arteta can be doing a fantastic job and also need to improve. Arteta can be kind of got a lot of things right and have got a lot of things wrong. It's not that. I think for me, I step back and I go, Okay, say you don't want the manager in. That's, you know, it's a valid thing to hold, and you have a decent backing. You could say, well, you know, he's failed in this sense, in that sense, or whatever. You know, he's not, you know, he's never.
And before I cut you, before you carry on as well, I just want to add, like, you know, people in life fail to understand if there's new information presented, you can change your opinion. Like, you could think Arteta isn't the guy, you're given information to suggest he is the guy, and vice versa. That's what doesn't make sense. Like, I pride myself on that. If I see evidence that Arteta isn't the guy or is the guy, I'll make my opinion. But I cut you off. Go on, man. I just wanted to throw that out.
No, it's important, and it's there's a, you know, it's a level of, you know, you put something on the internet 2 years ago, someone picks it's. I think it's a lot of it is internet discourse, and, you know, people in real life, you're allowed to change your opinion. I think a lot of that online discourse. But you know, both let's put it on a binary. Both sides have a decent argument, you know, really, and I sit on the side of well, I sit on a slightly different side, but I think both sides, if you're arguing against for and against, have a decent argument. You can make up an argument; it's absolutely valid. But I step back and I go, okay, say you're on the side that you don't want Arteta, you think he's not the right guy. That's absolutely fine. Who are you convinced of is going to do a job as good as or better? You're absolutely, you know, completely convinced. Let's just take a step back. Okay. So are you convinced that someone else would have got us from 8th, 5th, 2nd, and would have brought us up the table like that? Are you convinced someone would have brought the connection together in the way that Arteta has between the fans and the players, which everyone talks about, especially at the stadium? All that sort of stuff is happening. Are you absolutely convinced that the signings that we've made, the Gabriels, the Ben Whites, the Martin Odegaards, the Aaron Ramsdales, the Takahiro Tomiyasu's, you know, even Declan Rice's or whatever, all these signings that have objectively worked, are you sure that happens? Yes, Arteta has absolutely made mistakes, but are you sure that someone else would have done that? You can't be. So then projecting forward into the future, I don't think you can be convinced that he's the wrong guy. He's shown you enough. Yes, there's concerns, but let's see what he can do. And I think there's that sort of thing of just sort of cherry picking parts of the argument and going, well, Arteta only good, so he will absolutely 100% lead us to a league title. I'm pretty sure of that, but, you know, I can't say that for certain. Or Arteta, here's all the bad bits he's done. I'm going to take all of those, and that's all the reasons he's bad, and here's the reasons he won't lead us to a title. Neither side actually know. You have to take a step back and say, what are the KPIs of a manager? What's the KPIs?
See why I got him on the platform, people. KPIs and all these things. Keep going, man.
What are the KPIs of a manager for every football fan? Excite us. Arteta's done that. Bring in good players. Arteta's done that. Get a style of football going. Arteta's done that.
Make difficult decisions that are not necessarily popular.
What you just said, he's done that. Move us up the table year on year, improving our points tally. He's done
and
that.
our players.
So at some point, I step back from those KPIs and I go, I don't know what more someone else could do. I really, you know. So and again, that's not to say someone else wouldn't make mistakes, but if we could get Pep Guardiola in, and Pep Guardiola would come in, and something would be wrong, and people would be complaining. It just happens. No manager is perfect. So step back and let's see.
And that's the thing. Like, obviously, as I said, as much as I have admiration for Arteta and what he's doing, I'm not an Arteta fan beyond the point of him obviously being our manager. If there was a Pep Guardiola, and I agree with you, whether you go for an experienced manager or someone of the same ilk of Arteta, a bit like with Arteta, there's no guarantees we'll win a Premier League title. And I don't want to use that as a sort of crutch to say keep Arteta, because if there is a plan to do it, then let's go and get that done. I like Arteta. I like what he's done. All of the points you said, I agree. I kind of then, because that's what I initially agree with, I kind of go against my own logic and think, do you know what? As much as I praise him for that, a good manager should be doing half of those things. A competent manager should be doing half of those things. Arsenal obviously was a big club, and it's a unique opportunity for Mikel Arteta when he took this role. And I think he's got big bollocks, because many managers could have hid behind that. You know, he's like he's never swam before, and he's jumped into the Atlantic Ocean, and he's so far he's surviving, really and truly. I think the conversation in time is going to move over from, you know, big up you for the rebuild, but are you a man to necessarily bring us our league title? And for all the good things that I echo with Mikel Arteta, naturally, if, you know, as good as Saka is, if he makes a mistake, I'm going to speak on it. I don't know if Mikel Arteta has necessarily maximized all of his resources. Sometimes I think internally for the players and Arsenal, we make things harder for ourselves, or we kind of create our own problems. And I think he has done that. Is he currently getting the maximum out of his team? No, the man sits there and says, it's my job to find internal solutions and maximize my players. So I have to hold you to that. He said we need to be be a team that gets 100 goals. When you look at the volatility around our young players and what he said the other week about basically what Saka, Martinelli and Odegaard done was not a fluke, but for want of other words, a fluke. I have to add a caveat and say, you know what, in August, you're a very smart man. You knew that they might not be able to do that. Obviously, finances are one thing, but could you have pressed for a striker? Could you have pressed for a more consistent winger? And I personally have concerns over Mikel Arteta since we won the FA Cup, which me and you have spoken about. And in Europe, again, the whole team has to take responsibility. But I just feel under Mikel Arteta, when we've got to the latter stages of European competition, like in the Europa League, we haven't shown the necessarily street smartness. And with us on the eve of Porto, that's obviously what I want to see. And I would say the biggest thing for Arteta, obviously, he's a young manager. He's going to do naive things. I don't want it to be in vain. I don't want you to learn everything you need to learn at Arsenal, good or bad, F off somewhere else and say, you know what, I did that at Arsenal, it didn't work, I'm going to do this. And I don't know exactly what the club want to achieve. Obviously, I do, but I don't think the club is sitting there and saying, you know, Mikel Arteta, you're getting sacked if you do not win a league title. I do think he'll get a new contract, which I think is fairly deserved in line with our project, which we'll discuss later. But yeah, I'm a fan of Arteta. I just feel now I'm looking at you to kind of move the needle. I don't want to keep mentioning a certain German midfielder because I think he's done okay. But I asked the question, if we really was tight to FFP in the summer, if we really did need to move the needle and get closer, I don't know who you would have signed. But was it worth it signing a project which is essentially Havertz is? Yes, he's versatile, he's experienced, he's brought height and stuff like that, but we actually don't know exactly what he is. So I think there's a lot of things Mikel Arteta could do better, but I like the guy really and truly at this moment in time. In fact, even throughout the season, I remember we sat here and the talk's always been about a striker at our football club. The first few months of the season, regardless of the goal scored, we was probably talking about chance creation as well as conversion. I think whatever Arteta's done in training, we've been creating chances. We're just not putting the ball in the back of the net. Now, I don't know if that's psychological with the players. I don't know if that's something to do with Mikel Arteta under or over coaching in the final third. I don't know if it's a personnel problem, but I do think we're now creating chances. And again, on one hand, the manager has to take responsibility. But if you're creating a million chances and not scoring, it's kind of with the players. Like, I do think our players are at that stage, young and old, where you've been burnt by fighting for a league title and missing out. Like, you need to learn from your own experiences. Obviously, City are different and Liverpool's different, but I don't think Pep and Klopp has to tell these players the margins between winning and losing and things like that. I definitely think with us where we are in this season at the moment, I think we've dropped off a bit defensively. I don't think obviously we're scoring goals. I've got concerns over the midfield and a lot of intricacies. But I like the guy really and truly. I just feel like what you said, there's too much hyper opinions. It's either people are Mikel Arteta sworn in to the point where criticizing him is seen as scapegoating, and then we all know about the out brigade. And I'm not saying either party is right or wrong. You're allowed your thoughts. I personally, even if I was Mikel Arteta out, I'd love to be proven wrong because that would mean Arsenal are going to where they need to go to. I like the project, and one thing we can't deny, whether we rate Arteta or not, whether you think he's the good guy or not, if he left Arsenal tomorrow, there would be a whole leap of interest in the individual, really. You know, you look at these managers of tomorrow, Xabi Alonso's up there, who, if Arteta did leave, I'd like that. You've got Mikel Arteta. These are managers being earmarked. You know, again, I don't know how long Pep's going to be at City, and I don't know if Arteta would still be wanted by City. But if Arteta left and Pep said, I'm effing off in the summer, you know where he's going to end up. So it makes sense, really. I do think there's an over-reliance in players as well, man.
I think at the beginning of that, you laid out very well the concerns I would also broadly share around Arteta. But it's, you know, it's like anything in life. Nothing is perfect.
Nothing's perfect. Nothing's guaranteed.
Any job, any relationship, any friendship, any whatever it is, you know, you're gonna, you know, you might think, oh my God, I've met the woman of my dreams. 3 months in, she's gonna start, you know, why are you eating like that? Or, you know, why'd you say that in front of that person? Whatever it is, you know, and she'll feel the same.
Concerns. You might go through the phone and see stuff you don't want to see.
And they'll feel the same towards you. Nothing is bad. And every job you might get there.
Not if you don't give them your password, but go
on. that's your issues to deal with.
This ain't me. This is all entertainment. This ain't me. That's what Alex said. I'm not involved.
any job you'll get there where you say, you know, maybe you feel it like, you know, we do this and we do a lot of sort of football stuff, but you know, which is great, and you get to speak about your favorite club and get paid for it. It's amazing. I don't know about you, but I feel quite isolated a lot. I feel like, you know, I need to try and like get out and I'm always like, right, if I know that Wednesday evening I'd have been working all day, I need to plan something with that evening because otherwise I'll just be miserable, right? Every single job you have is going to have a downfall. So we have to take the Arteta situation and see all of those concerns and not and not press and not. I agree also on that side of things of not be scared of criticizing. I put up a video the other day on my channel where that comment that you mentioned about the
your comment section is always entertaining on your videos, man.
Yeah, because you get people who are like, it's like you've personally upset them for criticizing something,
bro.
And I get it, because if you're really I'm not mocking those people. I get it, because it's like, if you're really invested in something, if you're at the 3-month stage in the relationship, you're like, no, this can't be. It's about,
they can't hit Arteta, so they'll hit you or me. I definitely know you feel like you're seen as the kind of gateway sort of thing, really. And football's very tribal, and it brings out the most primary emotions in people, so it's expected, man.
You get projected on, and you're also with every fan opinion, you're also dealing with the person. The person who might be happy, might be having a difficult time, and often there's a word I love, and it makes me sound cleverer than I am: sublimation.
You're gonna have to explain what the hell that is. I've never heard that in my life, mate.
It's really useful to understand football. Sublimation is essentially the idea, I think, and someone will correct me if I'm wrong. Sublimation is like, if you've had a bad day at work, you can't come home and shout at your partner, because that's not socially acceptable. You can't come home and punch someone. It's not socially acceptable. What you can do is come home and shout at the TV. You can do that. You can kind of put emotions into something that is socially acceptable. So you go to the football and you see people who are like, "Oh, Teta, you're an idiot," all this sort of stuff. You're like, that can't be coming from the football, because this doesn't actually matter. There's something going on. So, and that's not in any way to go, and therefore your opinion's not valid, or therefore you shouldn't be saying that. It's up to you. It's your life. I'm not here to tell you what to do. But when you're seeing people's opinions reflected, you're going, there's also so much of their life going into it. So I think the only thing you can do is look for yourself and go, what do I think genuinely, without everyone else? And that for me is about stepping back and going, what are my KPIs for a manager at my football club? At the moment, Arteta's hitting them. Not that he's perfect, not that I don't have criticisms for him, not that all those concerns you share about getting over the line, his use of young players, I've got a bit of an issue with, and all these sorts of things. But general direction of travel, KPIs, what do I want my manager to do? He is doing it, and we've just got to give him time.
This is it. It's like we're on the sat nav, like we've got the sat nav on. We're driving down the motorway. I just don't know the ETA of our destination. Obviously, being Champions League, Prem, being the envy of the world, etc., etc. And we've got to remember, pressure's a privilege. Arsenal Football Club, it's the best thing in the world if you win 3-4 games. It's a crisis if you win 1. So you can imagine the period we're at, really and truly. I will say, though, in May, if the metrics, if we're like what you said, improving young players, attacking, different systems of playing, general improvements, all of that stuff, which they're ticking in the right direction. And I wouldn't say I've got confidence about how we're performing at the moment, because in terms of it being a results business, I can't, points are not on the board. And you could argue we are playing bad because obviously we're not getting results. But I would say it's not like when we were 8th, we're playing crap football. It's like we're doing okay. There's psychological issues. And the biggest thing is putting the ball in the back of the net. There are some positives, which I hope, being in Dubai, being in a different environment, we forgive ourselves for what's happened. We pat ourselves on the back for what we've done, and we just come back again and hit hard against Palace. Obviously, a week's a long time in football. So imagine 19 or 20. If we beat Palace, Nottingham Forest, and Liverpool, and it's a big if, we'll get 7 to 9 points. The whole sentiment changes very quickly.
Yeah,
very.
And on the Dubai thing, I won't say who it is, but you know who I'm referring to. There's a channel that occasionally I watch because I think it's interesting to hear opinions that are wildly different from mine. And there was a guy on there absolutely nailing Arteta for going and having a meal. And you're like,
I mean, that was a sackable offense. I'm not gonna lie. That was a sackable offense from the gaffer, man. I don't know about it. No, I'm playing, but Arteta, if there was anything I can't support, it's a next man putting meat in your mouth. Pause. Like, that was crazy, Arteta. And then he's touching his hand, probably calling him Pappy, and that obviously that's something that annoys me as well. That's something that annoys me because some individuals, going back to your work environment, some people, as you said, with KPIs and work environment, some people from Monday to Friday, they're getting disciplinary meetings, they're on the verge of a sack, they're still going out down the pub and getting pissed and chatting shit. These footballers have lost a game or it's a negative thing. Why can't they go, like with Saka, he's on a boat, and it's even an old picture as well, he's on a boat, or Mikel Arteta is eating food. What do you want the guy to do? Not eat, not be happy? like, not that they're not focused 24/7, because do we really think, Mikel Arteta, for whether we praise him or not, do we really think we can put any more pressure than he's putting on himself? It's his first job. He's talked about as this. His family are probably not seeing him as much. He wants to succeed. I don't even know how he's still got a full set of hair. Like, the man whether you believe he's the guy or not, I've never had to doubt his intention and his integrity about moving this club forward. So get off the guy with this Dubai crap, man. And the players as well. It's quite jarring, man. It really pisses me off, quite frankly.
Specifically the hairline, because mine's starting to starting to go.
I might have to do the Gabriel thing, go Turkey quickly.
Covering it up. Yeah, get the manual going.
It's definitely not Rio Ferdinand one, man.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I saw that you shared something about Stephen Bergwijn the other day, and I'd never seen it before, and I was like, oh yeah,
I'm never gonna beat them allegations, man. I prefer Errol Spence personally, but it will take Bergwijn, man. If anyone needs I can't imagine you need a Bergwijn lookalike for a birthday party, but in this living economy, I'll take any money I can. So hit me up, folks, man.
I can't get angry at Arteta for eating a meal. I just can't. And they were trying to essentially say, well, the club's got no money and they're going out for meals, and you're just like, that's not how it works. Do you think the Kroenkes the PSR, the profit and sustainability rules, allow you to lose £105 million over a couple of years? So there's a limit on what you can spend. Do you think the Kroenkes are sat there and they have no more money to actually spend? They just have billions, and they're going, no, you can't have any of that for meals. Sorry,
taking chips, mate.
You can only take it out of the transfer funds.
It doesn't make any sense, man, and it's quite jarring.
Sorry to cut you off, but again, this kind of does refer to. I think that person was referring to the fact that he works really hard, and he sees the team he loves going out and having nice meals and stuff, and he thinks, you've been failing at your job. How come you get to have nice things? And I don't agree with the logic, but I understand his feeling. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, I get that. I do get that.
I get it as well, but I mean, just chill out, man. Like, just chill out. Like, just chill the hell out. I wanted to ask you, because you kind of touched on it. How do you feel about the Kroenkes then? Because obviously there was a point, I don't think every Arsenal fan maybe necessarily wanted them out, but they were held in a negative light. Me personally, I think when you look at their projects around how they, what they do with other clubs and what they've implemented at Arsenal, obviously indirectly as the owners of this company, which I hate to refer to our club as, indirectly, any successes or failures starts and stops with whoever owns the organization, right? But I do feel that any successes or failures, or if there's any struggles around FFP or any issues around, squad members and injuries, I think it's all on Edu and Arteta, because we know the Kroenkes, they put people in place, they sit back, there has been money to spend, and it's like, you lot work your magic. And that's why I kind of praise Arteta for the signings, because obviously every manager has made bad signings, but I think definitely in recent years there's been more of a better hit to miss. But if we are struggling with FFP in January, if we really were probably closer to those limits in the summer off the back of spending, then for me that is with Edu and Arteta. Like, where are you at with KSC? Does it really hold any weight if people were to sit here and say KSC out, or if we weren't to win a league title, could you put that at the feet of them?
I try and understand arguments, but I would understand people wanting and disagree, but I would understand the Arteta arguments of, get him out, get Ancelotti or whatever, way more than the KSC arguments. What more do you want from an owner?
We just smashed our transfer record.
What more do you want? They're invested, they're engaged, they invest in the stadium. They invest in the playing staff.
They've done very smart with the son, Josh, now kind of being a prominent figure at the Emirates as well.
Josh is involved and gives half-hour interviews to Jeff Sharif, saying we love the club and all this. I really don't know. If you want the Kroenkes out, I think you have to consider, am I thinking historically? Because from 2018 or 19, whenever it was that they took full ownership, they have absolutely been, I think, one of the best owners in the league. How do we judge owners? We judge them by investment in the playing staff. Check. They have invested more.
They've committed to the manager as well, really. And you could argue the caveat that obviously it was different, but I personally, when you look at Una Emery, obviously they betted in Arteta a lot more. I think if that Aubameyang stuff happens with Una Emery, I don't know if Emery wins that battle. Arteta did. You know, Arteta was allowed to rip up contracts. They fully committed into whatever he wants to do, rightly or wrongly. So I think that is the point you're saying, but I cut you off, man.
No, yeah, no, but that's it. And you know, in terms of, you know, yeah, okay, maybe you'd want them to be, you know, Islington locals or something, but they're not. And look around, you know, what do you want to be owned by? I won't say that, but you know, the Newcastle owners, let's say that. What do you want to be owned by them, or do you want to be owned by Qatar, or do you want to be like what?
I'm not gonna lie, I would, you know, I would. I just show me the money, man. Just show me the money. I know it's wrong, but show me the money.
Maybe, but again,
that's the only thing I would check them for. If I'm honest.
The profit and sustainability rules mean that Newcastle can't even spend money in January. So it doesn't. They need to increase their commercial revenues, and the Cronkies recently have negotiated fantastic deals with Emirates and all.
Every week there's a new commercial deal.
Whatever. So they are increasing our spending on that side, so we can spend more on the playing staff. They're giving out top contract. I just don't know what more.
We're finally being a competent football club to a degree in all aspects as well. So I agree with you. It's like, what more can you say? I'm not going to lie. I wasn't always the biggest fan of Stan Kroenke. I think there was a correlation when he initially came in and our stocks, our the shares in the club were sold and we was in a bit of austerity. But at the end of the day, you know, whether you rate it or not, Kai Havertz has been bought for 65 million. Declan Rice, 105 million. As you said, big money contracts to keep existing talents. And Mikel Arteta has spent money. I don't want to get into that side because, you know, there's a lot of... I do think there is a legit argument about money's been spent and getting more bang for your buck and you know, being a bit more prudent around resources. But we all know people take things out of context. Arteta spent X amount, get the man out, blah, blah, blah. So I don't really want to get into that. But the money, the manager's been given everything he needs to a degree. Yeah.
And as part of this referendum, just pulling up transfer marks, as part of this referendum, we have had a bit of a kind of, oh, we're not very good at buying or whatever. And I just, who do you think are like, in your mind, the best buyers in the league? The best purchasers of talent?
It's probably I would say Liverpool City, just because of when Liverpool historically did that project. Okay. And City, there's very few players that don't bang in it. Like there's Calvin Phillips. But as I said, I think our signings have worked out. As you said, Tomiyasu, Zinchenko, Gabriel Jesus. Declan Rice would have thrived wherever the man went, but we signed Declan Rice. You know, obviously, you know, there's several others really and truly. Aaron Ramsdale, not everybody was agreeing with that. And now you can, the biggest testament to Aaron Ramsdale is when he walked into the club and back-to-back relegations, he's a crap keeper. If that man don't play, top Reds are going crazy. So there's that. Benjamin White's worked out. Timber, I'm going to stick my neck out and say that's worked out. Fair enough. He's only played 50 minutes in the league, but you can see that's a great signing. Yeah, there's Fabio Vieira, the jury's still out. Lokonga, the jury's still out. Them kind of signings there. That's why I give the manager a bit of grace because not every sign is going to work out. But that's also why I add the caveat in that I do think I wouldn't describe Arteta as wasteful, but I just want to see a bit more bang for our buck. Of course, I like Fabio Vieira. I don't think Havertz is a bad player. I got the logic with Lokonga. And as I said, signings don't work out. But when you add that collective fee, obviously hindsight's a wonderful thing. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. Could we have done better? And that ties me into something as well. Where are you at with Edu? Because, you know, we all know it's a collaborative thing. You know, it's very unique in a sense of 9 times out of 10, if you've got a young squad and a young manager, you might have an experienced technical director, but they're all relatively young. Obviously, it's difficult because we don't know what Edu does or doesn't do, what he's tried or tried not to do. And the club make a big song and dance about being collaborative and things like that. I don't know how you look at it because, again, you know, if Edu is championing the signing of Havertz and ripping up contracts and things like that, then I guess if people disagree with what they've done, then he has to face the music like Arteta. But if Edu disagreed, for example, with the signing of Raya or Kai Havertz and said, you know what, there's concerns, maybe we could spend money elsewhere. We both know that Arteta holds a bit more weight in those conversations. If he's gone out there and said, you know what, that's my fault, I'm going to go and get you what you want. He gets him what he wants. In my opinion, then the director's done his job, innit? That is your job. Go and get these things that the manager wants, and then it's down to the manager to utilize them. It's like Edu was told to go to the grocery store, buy X, Y, and Z in ingredients. If Arteta can't cook, that's his business, if I'm honest. But yeah, where are you at with Edu?
Yeah, I think you hit it when you said we're not exactly sure what his job is. I think that's the problem is, you know, you get a lot of, you know, oh, Edu,
and he's renewed contracts.
Yeah, and you just go, we can let's look at what we know he does do, and that is the contract side of things. We seem to be having a decent hit rate. I mean, name me a player in the last since maybe January 2022, was it when Vlahovic turned us down?
Yeah. All right, we're gonna get on to Vlahovic, but you know, I saw what
Name
he
me a
did yesterday.
player who's turned us down. You know, and they
This is the thing.
always say, and yeah, you know, we're getting better on the pitch, but also that's the conversations off the pitch. They always say, I had a conversation with Arteta and Edu, and I wanted to join the club.
And they got horny, yeah. They got mad horny after talking to Arteta and that they wanted to sign for us. Look at Declan Rice. They got excited once he spoke to Arteta.
Yeah. So, you know, and I look at the contracts and I think the wage structure looks good to me. I look at the handling of the academy, and that will see, you know, the prospects that are coming out there that, you know, I appreciate Arteta maybe not giving them the chances necessarily, and we can go on to that maybe. But you know, Edu, you know, oversees a lot of that. The women's side are doing really well, getting lots of investment and signing players and seem to be doing okay. I don't know loads about them, but seem to be doing pretty well. And he's involved with them. He's with Mary Earps at the FIFA Best thing the other day. So, you know, he's involved in lots of aspects of the club. He's not responsible for Saka missing from 2 yards. Do you know what I mean? Like, he, you know, everything that we know he does. Again, I would ask the question: what more do you want him to do? Everything that we are sure he does, like contracts, getting players over the line, involvement in the academy, like all the things that I can think of that I know Edu does. What more do you want?
This is it. The only thing I could demand of Edu is a bit unfair. It's just my personal opinion, like just a rabbit out the hat. Like, I'm just hoping that you've got a magical contact in your phone. You're able to get something mad for us. If there is, without knowing everything, if there's something I'm really angry about Edu at, and I've got no logic of going off this, I look at someone like Kudus, I look at Paqueta and Bruno Gomes, and I say, you know what, Gaffer, 2 of them are Brazilian. They should have been at the Emirates, if I'm honest with you. But again, we don't know what Edu does or doesn't do, really.
I love the idea of you meeting him and calling him director. Hello, director. All right.
Exactly. And obviously, Edu's a man that can't breathe, really, because he's another one to go back about to what you said about eating steak. If Edu's with his family, you know, at like 7 p.m. in the morning, you know, 7 p.m. in the night, sorry, you don't know what he's been doing in the day, but he's like, oh, you know, why are you eating food? Why are you having a barbecue? How dare you be with your kids? You know, what's going on with the phones? As if he hasn't got an email, as if you couldn't be in a family living room and go on your laptop while you're working. I don't know how you can draw conclusions off a picture that probably took a second to take. But everybody, as you said, everybody's allowed their opinions. On the topic of signings, though, like, are you concerned? Because 17th of January, no strike. We knew a striker weren't coming in, but for argument's sake, no striker, no winger, no centre mid, not really a defensive option, not even a loan signing. Boy,
I said it in a video at the beginning of the window. I can't see us doing anything particularly because of the, I spoke to someone who gave me a pretty good estimation of where we're at with the PSR, and we're pretty close. And yeah, I can't see it. The only thing I can see is some kind of creative accounting or some a loan to buy option or whatever. But again, the problem is we kind of forget where we are. We go, right, well, we want to win the league. We want to be competing with Liverpool and Man City. Then what we want is we want a player and to win the Champions League. Then we want a player who's going to come in and go into our first team and improve us. Okay, that's fine. So what price range are you looking at for those sorts of players?
Especially in January.
10 million. No, you're not getting a player.
Put a rabbit out the hat and you found the next Kante or one of them kind of unicorn players. You're fully right on that. And that's where I think fans, and I get it, you know, like I understand the logic if people are saying disregarding FFP, you know what, in January, if you could go and get an Ivan Toney and he wins us the league, who really cares about tomorrow? I get it. There's every logic in that, really, because we're in the midst of a current campaign. I understand that. But at the same time, you know, we have got to where we have got to because we've shown the bollocks to make long-term decisions rather than short-term gratification. So if, for example, the striker for me, I would love, and I'm sure you would as well, we'd love to wake up and we've got that crazy striker that helps us. But if we're saying, you know what, January is not the right time, Edu is on the back burners talking, and in the summer, we're going to get someone, fair enough, really and truly. And I think that's kind of where we have to go to it. I understand it's frustrating because it does feel like our club, we take 10 steps forward, then 3 back, then kind of forward, and then we're kind of at a sideways step. So I understand it. And you hit the nail on the head. You know, this is the Zubamendis, the Douglas Luizes, the Vlahovic's, the so on and so forth. Everybody knows we're not going to sign them kind of players in January unless you're going to put big money down. Half of these players are in the mix their season. I would say with us being close to FFP and struggling to buy people, then I would put that kind of back to what we said with Arteta and Edu. Maybe the resources haven't been worked in the best potential way, not just off last August, but before. Yeah, you know my thoughts. I have sympathy if there's widespread injuries, but the injuries we've been getting, I don't think they're necessarily unique to others. So any of the fallout with that, I personally think Arteta, being a previous player and being at Arsenal as a manager, you've been here enough to kind of learn from that. We're in a bit of a weird one where it's like we can't buy before we sell. We kind of need to sell before we can buy. And as you say, and as well, it's probably naive to expect Aaron Ramsdale, Reece Nelson, Eddie Nketiah, or these kind of guys to leave. At best, you're probably going to see a Cedric who's been linked with Besiktas or whatever, which, again, they're the kind of signings we need to learn from. Don't put crap players on big wages or we're pissed really and truly. So I don't know, man.
Yeah, look, I can't. Yeah, as I say, I can't see us doing anything. Maybe we get a sale towards the end of the window that might free something up. But again, I do go back to the point that if you're a club who, let's say we went for Amadou Onana, let's say, you know, I don't think that's the right signing, but let's use him as an example.
Linked with Braithwaite of Everton today as well. Well, yesterday, but yeah,
you're looking at 60, 70, 80 million or whatever, right? Those clubs are going to want a lot of money up front, because they want to go and do the same thing in January. They want to go, well, if we're going to sell for 80 million in January, we need to buy someone equally as good, or hopefully equally as good.
Someone that makes a similar impact.
Exactly. So I think it's that same thing of, I do agree on the research resource use point. The one I'd say is actually David Raya, because while I think David Raya is an improvement on Ramsdale, the margin of that improvement is very slim. And so I think, was that the best use of resources? Okay, we're delaying that fee till later. Well, that tells us where we're at with PSR. So all of it is up for debate. And you could say, you know, was that the right fee for Havertz? Was that the right fee for Rice? Whatever, you could look at that. But I just think we're in the situation we are now. We weren't complaining in the summer. We were spending that kind of money. So I also think it's maybe underrated that we've got Vieira to come back. We've got Timber to come back. We've got Partey to come back. We've got certain, you know, more players in poor form. Once Tomiyasu's back from the Asia Cup, maybe Ben White can have a bit of a rest, and that means he can sort of deal with this niggle and stuff. I'm just hoping that some players coming back give us that sort of injection that we need.
I mean, that's what goes without saying. Like, even if we were to wake up and sign a striker, as we said at the start, Arteta talks about 100 goals. There's never going to even line. Well, to be fair, Messi got 91 goals in the calendar year, but one footballer is not going to bag 100 goals for our club. We need to maximize the players in and around it, which is bang on the money there, man. So I do share that point.
And one more thing as well. I think on the attacking front, I put it slightly on Arteta in the sense that I think he's not been willing enough to change things around enough for me. Maybe move players around or change how we attack, or go a bit more direct, or just try something different. Fine. But equally, I do feel for him in the sense that he is making the chances, as you mentioned earlier. The players aren't putting it away. And what's happening is all three of his front three at the same time are having a cold streak. That might happen to one player and the other two pick up the mantle. That might happen to two players and one picks up the mantle. For it to happen to all three of your front three at the same time, and probably you can argue your midfield, that is unfortunate.
That's why I think it's a psychological thing, because everybody, whether it's, you know, I actually think Kai Havertz did all right as a striker against Liverpool. Obviously, he's not clinical. As we've spoken about before, yes, I would love to, you know, Kai Havertz is a goal scorer, but you've never shown me that you're clinical in the final third. No, so it's like, I can't really be mad at you. It's like, I know Zinchenko's improved defensively, but it's like me still getting angry about you. I kind of accept these footballers for what they are, Gabriel Jesus as well. I know you're never going to be a bagsman, but let's utilize these players. But I will say, though, while I think it's more on the players to get out of this rut, if everybody is kind of failing in the final third, as much as I think it's more of a case of the players need to put the ball in the back of the net, it has to kind of be on the manager, really and truly, because indirectly it's your fault. And if it's not that, it has to be in terms of recruitment, because we haven't got the sharpshooters. And what you said about injuries is spot on. Me personally, I slightly disagree, even though I think everything you said is logical with Fabio Vieira, Partey, Tomiyasu. I just feel, as also Arsenal fans, we keep saying that like I'm watching the same movie. I hope they come back and they stay fit, but I can't keep watching the same movie expecting a different ending, man.
And there will be different players who go out and whatever, but I do think specifically, you know, I spoke about this like in December, right? Who would you say maybe were our two weakest performers? I'm not digging my players out, but because I love our players, but you know, who would you say maybe are our two weakest performers over December?
I think it's two players on the left hand side. If I'm honest, off the top of my head, man, I won't quite say his name because it's my star boy. But you know, it's someone that you know in the summer me and you were at Lemps with. But that's one. I will snitch on Zinchenko and say probably you. Slightly, maybe even. It's not really fair to throw Kirill in that as well. I think he's be a candidate, but he's not a key player like that. Probably Martinelli without a doubt, and I'd say Zinchenko essentially. I don't think it could be Saka, but I think I would more say Martinelli and Zinni.
I'd personally throw Ben White in there as well. And again, Ben White's been brilliant, but it wasn't his best month.
Yeah, he's a candidate.
So essentially, there's a decent argument that our two fullbacks were our poorest performers,
and we've spoken about that. I don't think.
And who was out? Tomiyasu and Timber. So you know, I think that was an issue for us in December, a specific issue for us that we had. You know, no competition for two players who were quite poorly out of form. So it happens. We're also so much of this. Whenever this happens, whenever we're talking about problems or whatever, I always just think, say Tomiyasu's available for Anfield, we're probably having a very different conversation. Say Saka puts that ball.
You weren't though.
No, I know, and this is the thing. The fine margins to go.
That was my PTSD coming out, like what you said earlier. Like that was bringing my stuff into this. Like,
but you know, it's so and again, it wasn't, and it happened for a reason. That's fine, but we're so close. The margins are so close. So we are never. Excuse me. You're never too far away, and you're never as good as you think, and you're never as bad as you think. It's always you're just slightly off or slightly over.
And say as well, and that's why I'm a bit like. That's why I'm kind of my frustration for Arteta comes from a good place, is because like it's like we've met this pretty girl. We're flirting. She's saying the nice things, and you know the birds and the bees are within touching distance. But we're acting now like we're being silly. We're now getting cold feet for no reason. It's like Arteta, yours. I don't ask anything of anyone.
Something you want to tell us, did you?
No. Hey, listen, I've got into enough trouble for these sort of analogies. I don't want nothing. This is all entertainment and stuff. But that's why I want, because it's like we're flirting with it. Like if we could just, for me, I would say squad depth, because me and you have spoken about this before. I do think Arsenal fans need to kind of move away from, you know, this player is going to start every week and stuff. Obviously, there's going to be some of them. It's like, you know, Benjamin White, had Tomiyasu and Timber might have been fit, he might still be one of the first names on the team sheet. He might be more of a rotation option. But that's what we need. We need a squad. If we want to, well, we can't compete for all trophies now because we're only still in 2. But that's kind of what we need. And that's why I'm on to Mikel Arteta, because you don't make snap decisions. You didn't just wake up one day and say, I'm going to sign Kai Havertz. You was probably looking at him for time and things like that. You're a very calculated man. I don't think you would not have considered that, you know, Saka and Martinelli might have hit a rut. I don't think you wouldn't have considered that. You wouldn't have considered that Jesus and Nketiah may or may not have scored enough goals. You're a smart man. Now, as I said, I don't know what you tried or didn't try to do in the summer. I don't know what moves didn't come off. I don't know truly how FFP was, but I can only deal with what's in front of my eyes. And like you said, we're ticking along. There is a lot of good things. I don't think we're as great as some fans might make out. There's a long road to go, but I don't think it's as terrible as, you know, Arteta out brigade. Not even, because there's some balanced people and balanced arguments for Arteta out. And when I say Arteta out, I'm screaming about those that don't try to provide any balance, just, you know, sit there and F and blind. Yeah, just F and blind, and they're allowed that thought. And that is my thing with it, really and truly. I wanted to ask you as well, because you touched on it, and I remember seeing your tweet. You called on Mikel Arteta, I think, for the Crystal Palace game. Correct me if I'm wrong. You want to see things tried a little differently. Like, what would you mean by that? Could that mean Smith Rowe on the left-hand side, or what?
I just think we need something. We need a different energy. The reason Trossard was so brilliant in 22-23 is he's a very different energy. He's a very different energy. He gave us something different. And if we'd gone on to win that title, we would have been having conversations and looking back on that title winning season, and we'd have said one of the big things was Trossard arriving. Trossard, you know, giving us a new lease of life, a new energy.
Super sub settings point.
It's just something that gets you that extra couple of percentage, or, you know, couple of 0.0s of a percentage over the line, by giving us just a different energy. Someone who's going to shoot from the edge of the box, someone who's a bit more technical in the center of the park, someone who gives you something a little bit different out wide. All these things, just something slightly different. And all we need, I think, at the moment, if I'm Roy Hodgson, I can basically tell you what our Arsenal are going to do on you know, and that's fine.
I think everyone can
to some degree. But why don't we do something else? It doesn't have to, you know, it doesn't have to be you start with Reece Nelson. But what you can do is say, right, on this game, Gabby Jesus, I need you to drift out wide a bit more. I want to create a little bit of confusion about who's coming inside. And
I would say you
Martinelli
need to drift to the left. The Brazilian boys, go do your stuff on the left-hand side again.
Yeah, make it a little bit more unpredictable. Saka, can we bring you inside? Can we bring you inside and let's say use Odegaard out wide for this game, whatever? Just something, a different energy.
Could Odegaard go to the left-hand side?
Or go to the left-hand side. Something unpredictable, like whatever it is. Because if we set up again with, you know, exactly the way we have been for the last five, 6 games, I just think we need a different energy. And if that can't come with the signing, that's fine. But then I think we need something different in terms of, you know, Arteta may feel it's the most effective version, what he's got at the minute, and it's just not happening for whatever reason. But until you switch something up, I just think it's hard to. It's hard when I feel like Crystal Palace are just going to basically double up on Saka, ensure Martinelli receives it too far up, and then push him out wide, get big centre backs on Jesus, and the same thing happens again. Give it something different. And I also think, in many ways, we're looking for our own Kevin De Bruyne, right? We're looking for our own Trent Alexander-Arnold. We're looking for, and Pep talks about this. Pep is obviously a brilliant tactician, but what he loves stressing, which is amazing, is how much he plays to his players' strengths. So he looks at, like he said, like the reason John Stones at the end of last season was playing the way John Stones was is because he's John Stones. I can't do that without John Stones. So what he's looking at is the players' superpowers and putting them in the best position to do that.
This is it.
I think at the minute, what is Martinelli's superpower? It's his finishing.
Running in behind.
And running in behind. So if we don't have that space, we've got to get him closer to goal. What is Jesus' superpower? Creating a bit of chaos. I don't think we're quite allowing to do that. What is Saka's superpower? I think if you get Saka inside into the half space, let him receive and roll contact and drive towards goal rather than just constantly receiving
it's
on
a scary
on
sight
the
for the opposition.
You can't stop that. No one else in the world, I believe, could receive inside and turn his man and muscle someone out of the way and drive forward in the way that Saka could. Yes, he's a brilliant wide receiver, but you could get Nico Williams and just get, you know, maybe get a bit of a drop off. Get them in the positions where they're doing the thing that cannot be stopped. The thing that is, you know, it's like putting Fabio Vieira in positions where he's constantly delivering a final ball. That's what you want to do. And I think at the minute that balance is off.
And I think you're bang on the money because obviously Pep is articulated a lot better than me. That's what I meant when I was saying, you know what, Jesus is not a goal scorer. Zinchenko is not great defensively. Rather than focus on what they're bad at, obviously there's times where their frailties are going to be, you know, we're going to see it. But focus on what they're good at. And I think he touched on the money. And that's where I think a bit of it has to be Mikel Arteta trying other things. A lot of it has to be psychological because it's just more or less the same players from last season where, you know, they're flicking it around the corner without thinking. There was that kind of, you know, that indirect kind of link-up play, and that's kind of deserted us. And it is a bit predictable. You know, I do think there's a correlation between Xhaka not being on the left-hand side and Zini struggles and Martinelli struggling. Obviously, Martinelli has things off his own back that he needs to address. But you said it there. I think Martinelli is best, in my opinion, when he's playing on instinct. When he's got too much time to think, you're running into blind alleys. Now, obviously, he's going to need to fix that up. Saka, obviously, the day and ages of consistent wide men hugging the touchline, chalk on their boots, it's over. It's inside forwards. I remember when Arsene Wenger spoke with Alexis Sanchez about that and gave an interview. It doesn't, obviously, the metrics might be there, but for me as an ignorant fan watching the game, Saka is dropping way too deep. There's only so many times he can dance past 3-4 players. And as you said there, if Saka's going to get doubled up against, I see that as a weakness for Arsenal, but that's also a strength. Kai Havertz could ghost in behind, you know, if Smith Rowe's on the pitch, if Trossard's on the pitch, Martinelli, Gabriel Jesus. So I agree with you with trying things differently. The only thing I wouldn't say is I don't think we need to mess around with our back five or the defensive third. I think the centre-backs and the full-backs and the keeper. I don't think Ramsdale will get a look in, but based on the Liverpool game, I think he did himself great. I don't think Raya deserves to be dropped. So we'll see. We'll see exactly what's saying there, man. I wanted to ask you as well. Obviously, we're out the FA Cup, out the League Cup. You know, we're still in and around the mix for the Premier League title. We're still technically at this point in time in the Champions League. What does a good season look like now? Like, how do we salvage this? Like, what is, we sit back in May beyond the obvious and like, yay.
Let me say we're technically in the Champions League. We are in the Champions League.
Technically, but again, I'm scared for the Porto game, man. I have to see what we're on, man. Like,
what is a good season? Good question. Look, obviously, you'd love a Premier League or Champions League. That would be amazing. But as I said, you can go back and listen to me in the summer, whatever. I still think we're a year, 18 months from this team being in its full maturation. And I think you know, and was talking about this with so who was Lawrence McKenna. Yeah, we were talking about this, and the idea that, you know, players who are young, we have this kind of projection forward of like, well, then they're going to get better and better and better on this kind of linear graph. Nothing's ever going to change. They're just going to get better and better.
Don't get me started on this. I'm very passionate about it. I'll let you take it away, man.
I don't always agree with that. I think, you know, you look at careers and you have to take them individually and say, well, maybe the reason that player is good is because they're kind of fearless when they're younger and they take players on or whatever. And as they get older, maybe they lose the burst or whatever.
It's like having a goal in life. People just think it's like that. You're going to hit road bumps. You look at Martinelli missing the penalty. You look at when Saka burst on the scene, breath of fresh air, great young player. Obviously, he missed the penalty for England. He's going through struggles at the moment. And Saka was due that. If it's going to be sunny, it's going to rain. You look at, for the last 2 years or something, the level of consistency Saka has had and carried this club on his shoulders, it's almost overdue where he finds himself in this. And only until the last few games where we stopped scoring, Saka wasn't necessarily playing amazing, but he was making the difference. And that's something you see with Mo Salah, with Haaland, historically Kane, Son. Like, that's what we want from good players. Can you make the difference? But you know, in today's day and age, if a young player comes on the scene, they play good for 10 minutes, they have to score a million goals, then do everything, can be amazing forever. But many fans don't have the brain cells to consider what takes a player to be that guy tomorrow. You know, if you want to be a Michelin star chef, you're going to struggle to cut onions for some period in your life, you know, really and truly. Every cyclist we see on Tour de France, they had to have stabilizers on their bikes at some point. People don't understand that. And there's no patience in football. You know that, I know that. So it's unfortunately never going to change, man. It's a shame.
I agree. And I think they're... Saka and Martinelli, at their best, we know, can perform at a arguably world-class standard. So let's just enjoy that for now and look at what we can get for this season and next season. And I think we're still just 1 or 2 short. I said, and this isn't me saying it now, I'm making excuses. I said it in the summer. We are 1 or 2 short. We're still 1 or 2 short. And I think, you know, that's something in the forward areas. I think that's a centre forward. I still think there's something in the midfield we could do. And I still think there's one more in the defence. And maybe you could look at the goalkeeper as well. So, we're still 1 or 2 short, or maybe 3 or 4 short. I think one more window, then this team is ready to 100% go all the distance. And then I'd start to look at Arteta and go, right, can he do this in his 5th season? Right. You know, he's had some time now. Let's go. I still feel this season is the one, and you can click me up on this and we'll come back to it next season. If I'm saying, oh, I don't think we're still not ready. No, that is the season for me.
Alex is puffing out chest, guys.
But this season, I never said I think we should win the Premier League. I never said I think we should win the Champions League.
We should challenge, but we'll fall short just because I feel I think there's a lot of good things, but I think Arsenal need to kind of, for me anyways, to win a league, I now need to be a bit harsher. And for me, it's about fine margins. As much as I don't think we were the worst team against Newcastle, West Ham, Aston Villa, whatever, you now need to win those games. It's not good enough to have all the possessions and things. And I still think, on the face of it, as I always say, last season, there's no shame in losing to a history-winning treble City side with a generational coach in Pep Guardiola. And yes, we weren't expected to be in a title race, but I genuinely believe in my heart, regardless of what City were doing, we had the Prem in our hands and we effed it up. So that needs to change to where we're going. And I do think I share your point in that I do think the question comes with depth. I think we need a lot more depth. But in terms of how we immediately take this team to the next level, anything from 1 to 4 signings, I do think Mikel Arteta is looking for a winger. Obviously, we failed with Rafinha, we failed with Mudryk, we failed with Pedro Neto. Now, them 3 are all very different, but they're all fairly explosive. And I can't really comment on this, but I do think where you look at Saka and Martinelli struggles right now, and, Nelson has looked all right on the peripheral things, but he's only played 87 Premier League minutes. Had we had that Pedro Neto or something, maybe Saka and Martinelli come out the side, recharge mentally, and then we keep it moving. Evidently, you need a striker. I agree with you in that. The midfield, I don't know what it is. I think it's more of a depth thing for me in midfield, because I look at Kai Havertz, you're doing okay. Odegaard, I think, is doing very good, and Declan Rice is a breath of fresh air. But it just feels like I can't put my finger on it. There's something missing. I don't know if it's Partey. I don't know if we need more options. And we need another defensive body, man. Like, if we can find another Timber, Tomiyasu kind of guy, I think we're lit. I do think there's a case for the goalkeepers, because I hope Raya starts to show his quality. I would love for Ramsdale to, somehow regain his shirt. But I do think there is a reality where maybe both keepers ain't good enough. And if there's that new Alisson or whatever, it's a bit FIFA-y now, but been them both, really.
Yeah, I was listening to Paul from the Redmen TV on James Alcott. He was talking about Alisson, and it sort of came to me. Goalkeeper is the one, I think, the position on the pitch that is most affected by reputation. a striker can go on a bit. Dom Solanke, right?
Yeah.
His stock is right here,
You're the
right
guy,
now.
You're the guy now, yeah.
Because he's on a really good run of form and he could get a really good move. A goalkeeper, if you make one clanging mistake or you get a bit of a reputation as whatever, you could be performing at your top level for months before people notice.
Yeah.
But for a striker, a couple of moments, whatever, a goalkeeper is only really noted over a long period of time when people look back and go, oh yeah, they've been really good this season.
And really in games where they're under the cosh, like you're not going to get rated if your team's more dominant. And I think you actually said it the last time we spoke. It was almost a thing where you kind of alluded to the fact that them kind of times Raya was in the team and we was okay. It's like Raya hasn't been called into action, but it's not exactly his fault. We're just doing what we need to do, really.
My point with Raya was about the margin of improvement. It's like
there it is.
You can't go if you're second in the league and you sign a goalkeeper who's a little bit better. You're not going to jump 20 points. You can't. So he's not going to make us loads and loads better and be the signing that transforms Arsenal because he can't. The reason Virgil van Dijk and Alisson transformed Liverpool is because they went from 4th to 1st with him. Do you know what I mean? So you go, oh, those are the
signings, really.
Those are the signings, right, that transformed us. And we'll look back and go, the signings for us were like, Gabriel, maybe Saliba, Odegaard, whatever. Those guys were.
I would actually say Gabriel, Jesus, and Zinchenko based on what they came on and how they took the system up as well. Obviously, Declan Rice goes without saying. And you're right with the goalies. It's like a goalie could make 100 saves across 89 minutes. He lets, the 101st goals in. Nobody cares. A striker could miss 99 chances. He bags in the 90th minute. He's the hero. He's the poster boy. I guess, unfortunately, that's the nature of the business, man. What was I going to say to you? I was going to ask you something. What do you make of this whole Declan Rice backwards passing stuff?
It's nonsense. He's the most progressive pass. He's got the highest amount of progressive passes in Europe.
You take it away, man, because I'm tired of fighting Declan Rice's claims, man.
Like, don't, mate.
People expect him to be Xavi. He's never shown that he's Xavi.
If he was called Deco Rico, people would love him. It's the, realistically, look, he's got the most progressive passes in Europe. I would have paid 200 million for this kid. He is sensational. And look, the problem is with every signing, it's going to be rival fans going, oh, you're not good enough right now. They don't watch us enough. They watch us against their team and maybe watch us on the Super Sunday.
Everyone would love Declan Rice. Let's be honest. Everyone would have loved Declan Rice, man. He would be what he's doing in an Arsenal shirt, same stuff he's doing in the West Ham shirts. Any West Ham fans out there, on behalf of all Arsenal fans and football fans, I'd like to say sorry because you lot have been waffling about Declan Rice for years, and we all looked at you like you're the crazy crackhead outside a train station saying Jesus is coming, and we never took it in. Yeah, they are good. They went out the cup. Declan Rice is amazing. Again, I can only speak for myself. I said it when we was here. I said, I'm not expecting Declan Rice to look like Xavi in a year, but I think considering what he says about Mikel Arteta has changed the way I think and all these things, you got to remember this man has come from an academy, played 200 times for West Ham, X amount of times for England in the Prem, and then you've got a man like Mikel Arteta basically saying everything you think you know is a lie. He has to strip it all back. Obviously, we know how he's going to play in an Arsenal shirt and a West Ham shirt. There's going to be similarities, but vaguely it's going to be very different. He's going to have to get to grips with that, and I'm not expecting him to wake up and be amazing in that, but you can see an improvement. And obviously you have to wonder, because a lot of things were said about Declan Rice in the 8. We don't have that 6 to kind of chaperone what he's doing. So when would you see that? But at the same time, this is what I mean about accepting players for what they are. I've been saying, even when he was at West Ham, Declan Rice he's a lot more progressive than people give him credit for. He's got a lot more technical ability. That being said, he is respectfully to him, he's a piano pusher with a piano player. You look at Jude Bellingham, he's the star man kind of like that. Declan Rice is the chaperone, and he's doing the same things in an Arsenal shirt. He's not going to wake up and be this all-action midfielder. I see personally Declan Rice as a man that maybe not improve on a crazy scale, never going to be Cesc Fabregas or Santi, but he is improving. There's a lot more improvements in the final third. And I do think he is going to be a man that can vaguely get 10-odd goals in all comps, really and truly. So the least of our problems is Declan Rice. Like, the least of our issues is Declan Rice.
Who do you talk to? Who are you talking to?
This is, bro, you'd be amazed, you'd be amazed what some of my friends say, you'd be amazed what YouTube says, you'd be amazed, man. And again, it goes back to what you're saying. I just think a lot of the Declan Rice slander is about, we're just frustrated, people are frustrated, everyone can get it, no one's going to be saved.
Yeah. Do you know what? I can't wait for the football to come back, because we can actually talk about football rather than just having ridiculous arguments about whether Declan Rice is good enough. Of course he's good enough.
It's absolutely funny, man. Again, you say you can't wait for football to come back. I hope it comes back when we're doing all right. I don't want us to lose against Crystal Palace, and I'm sure you'd say the same. To kind of wrap this up, though, I wanted to ask you about people we've been linked with, man, first and foremost, man. obviously Newcastle are struggling with FFP. The Indonos are saying that we've indirectly been talking about Isaac. Do you buy any of that? Would you like Isaac at the club? And, you know, not really any evidence, but if Newcastle are struggling, could there be something there with Bruno Guimaraes?
I don't think Bruno is what we need in our midfield.
You reckon?
Yeah, I think with Rice and Ødegaard, if that's going to be generally our midfield three, I think we need something a little bit more akin to a Phil Foden, someone who can receive high up, who can take it on the half turn. Someone who can
you reckon
drift.
Bruno can't do that? Oh, yeah, that's a bit harsh.
No,
I think the fact that he likes fighting, people forget, myself included, his technical level, man. I'm just being devil's advocate.
Maybe, but I don't see him. I don't see that as his best work. I see his best work as linking things together, breaking up play, but doing it sort of not necessarily taking it off the first man and taking it off his centre backs. But whenever I watch him, it could be that I need to watch him more and see the potential. And obviously, every player improves and changes over time. But I don't see the kind of the dexterity in the final third that I'd be looking for from a number 8. I like the players, nothing wrong with them. And if we were building our midfield, again, we didn't have, let's say, if we couldn't get Ødegaard and Rice, he'd 100% be on there. And then you build around him, and you maybe get more of a physical 6 behind him, and then more of a creative 8 next to him. I don't know, but you know, it's for me the blend of our midfield wouldn't be quite right.
I'm here with that. And Isaac, you having him in theory? If we could,
I like Isaac. I don't know whether I look at the way what I think we're missing is a forward who can move centre backs in a different way. And what I mean by that is someone who can hold, you know, literally physically manhandle. Like the example I use is the assist that Osimhen gets for Napoli for Kvaratskhelia. Do you know what I mean? Where he holds players off, he's doing the keep ups, and he gets around. It's that ability, it's that sharpness in the box, the physical presence, the ability to hold the ball up. Isaac's nice, but I think he's more, and he's not, but he's closer to an Henry than a Haaland type. He's very
close to Jesus. One thing I do like about Isaac is the runs he makes into the channels when he pulls out into the left. The only thing I would knock with Isaac is he's got a bit of them injury things around him. You apply Arsenal tax. I don't know if we'd ever see him, man. I got to ask you about Vlahovic. You know, he got a brace yesterday. I knew we was doing this stream today when Vlahovic got that. I was like, yeah, Alex, we're taking you to court. The Serbian savage bags again. You still not convinced on him?
It depends where you use him. If he's your battering ram, I think he could develop into that. If he's, you know, a Lukaku stood on the last line pushing people around, I don't hate that. I just don't think he's got the athletic profile for the Premier League. I think he'll come and he'll look like Higuain did in the Premier League. Very good player, very good finisher.
Higuain had one too many kebabs, man.
Well,
true. You know what?
I'm not, you know, these guys aren't, but it's body composition. It's about, you know, how many fast switch muscle fibers you have and all that sort of stuff. And you watch certain players, you look at Jeremy Doku, the explosivity he's got in him. Think about that sort of physical profile. It's the opposite for Vlahovic. He's more akin to it. And this is going to upset some people. His physical profile is, for me, from what I've seen, is a lot more to like a Lacazette. And maybe Lacazette's peak, where Lacazette was bagging goals and could run, but it's always going to slow him down. And I watch him, and he's like he's got a parachute on. I just don't know that he's a great finisher, great number 9. Depends how you use him in the right team with explosive players around you, maybe. But no, for me, physically, he's not at the level.
I mean, we spoke about it before. My first choice would be Osimhen. Then I would explore the Vlahovics of this world, the Seskos. If you're not able to kind of get them kind of guys, Boniface too, then I would probably revisit Ivan Toney. But there's no point talking about strikers for now, innit, really and truly. Would you take Benzema or Firmino on loan?
Yep.
Which one? Benzema would be expensive.
I'd take anything at this point. Do you know what? I was thinking about Benzema, and obviously the first thing is like, no chance. But then you start to think about it, and you're like, realistically, if you said to him, look, come in, we're trying to win a league, we're trying to win the Champions League, maybe you take, you say you take a bit of a reduction in wages, whatever. You know, he might say absolutely not, but you say, you know, you're not enjoying your football in Saudi. We can give you a really good opportunity here. You're playing the Premier League for the first time, all that sort of stuff. I wonder whether his time's gone. I think the way he played at Real Madrid was very protected. because he was because he built that level of stardom and he didn't need to run that much. He didn't need to. He could just be in the right positions at the right time and sniff things out, which is what he's so good at. I don't know whether we could build a team around that. But look, to come on in the last 20 minutes of matches, you know, obviously the wages would be ridiculous, but if we can sort the wages out, I don't mind paying it because you're not paying a transfer fee.
I'm all for that, man. If there was a capacity to somehow get Benzema or Firmino on a short-term deal, then, you know, if that can tie us over, I'm all for it. You have no complaints with
Firmino, I'm less.
He's Brazilian. That's enough. That's enough for me. You're Brazilian. I don't think Firmino's going to bag the goals, but you're Brazilian, and I would love to see him do them no-look finishes and whatnot.
He's not called Gabriel, though. That's the problem. So we can't sign him.
But he has got a great set of teeth, though, man. We could get some we need to bring out some new merchandise. He can advertise that. I do wonder, though, and I do think, you know, if you're a baller, you can ball out anywhere. You never quite lose it. But at the same time, no disrespect to the Saudi League. I'm not watching it. I just have doubts over the competitiveness and the higher level and stuff. And yeah, they've only been there a couple months, but I don't know how much are you up to the pace of playing in the top 5 league again, really? Like, obviously, Firmino's been there for a few months. He's been in the Prem for years. The same goes for Benzema with La Liga. But I just don't know. And I don't know their willingness because obviously they've gone there for money. I'm not doubting their professionalism, but they've gone there for money. They've gone to chill out after doing what they're doing in the game. Are they really going to be hungry? And I look at someone like Benzema, not to diss Mikel Arteta, but you've been around Jose, Carlo, whatever have you, won everything. If you rock up at the Emirates and you know that regardless what happens, you're leaving in a few months and you've got a bunch of kids around you. Obviously, Benzema's shown he's good with that. It's not that I don't think you would care, but is it going to mean that much to you? Because these players are trying to prove themselves. You've been there, done it, and wore the t-shirt several times, really. So,
and I think from his camp, he might look and say it's kind of a lose-lose. Either I go and I kind of look like an idiot in the Premier League, or I look okay in the Premier League, and what do I prove?
This is it. This is it. Like, this is it. So we'll have to see, man. My last question for you, though, man. Crystal Palace, Arsenal. Give me a prediction. You know, I'm going to stick my neck out here and say 3-1 Arsenal. Saka, Martinelli, Jesus bag. I don't expect a clean sheet. You can't have it all.
I'm predicting a frustrating game that we win 2-0. I think we'll win, but there will still be question marks.
Bro, I can't lie. The way we're moving, get the 3 points first, then we break down performances. And for me, I just badly want us to get 7 to 9 points from these last 3 games because I don't think everyone's going to forget
we're not getting
stuff.
79 points, mate. No chance.
No, 7-2-9. Sorry, man. But like, just because the sentiment will change. If you get something from Palace, Forest, and Liverpool, not that people will forget stuff, but you know, Arsenal fans, the worst fans ever when we're losing, most optimistic. Like, there was just a few months ago, and I tried to tell Arsenal fans, calm down. Arsenal fans were saying, we don't fear no one in Europe. Bring on Real Madrid, all these things. Like, boy, it's crazy. Results dictate the feeling. And the moment we get a win, it'll all feel all right again. This is it, man. What content you got to come out, man? Let people know.
I haven't actually. I've been quite busy this week, so I've not been able to do anything. But I've got. I'm going to do, for the first time on the main channel, a sort of longer form live video. We're going to do a bit of a tier list. I think we're going to do Arteta's best signings. Okay, here's a hot take to finish the show. I was doing one with the Cannon Pod yesterday of the best Emirates era signings, not players, signings.
I got 3.
Go for it.
I got 4, in fact.
Give me 3.
No one could tell me Alexis Sanchez isn't one, Mesut Ozil isn't one, Santi Cazorla isn't one, and I'd stick my neck out and say Declan Rice already is one, and I might throw a Aubameyang into that as well. Easy. Wow. Slightly Saliba as well.
Disagree on a few of those.
Disagree on what? Mesut Ozil?
Like, for example, for Aubameyang, he comes in and he's amazing, but we pay top dollar. So for me, signings.
Oh, but when this guy Havertz, he doesn't dictate the transfer fee. Ooh, I wish everyone was afforded this consistency, Alex.
No, Havertz would not be, even if he does the level. For me, it's more things like the Koscielnys and the Sanyas and the Ramseys. Oh,
fuck off, man. That's a Koscielny. Like, come on, man. Big up Sagna. Fuck off, man. Like, come on. Oh my god. Because
if you look at the performance level, the price we paid, the time they were there, those are the guys that I look at as the best signings. And the best players, I'd put Alexis and Aubameyang, etc., etc. But I know I'm going to get cooked for it.
Man, this is
it's coming out on the Cannon Pod at 2 p.m. and I know I'm going to get cooked.
Would you throw Aaron Ramsey into that?
I did put Ramsey in my list. He wasn't top, but he ended up top because we compromised. But
do you know what? That's actually a good concept. Where would you put Giroud then? I know he's looked at a bit romantic, over romantic at his time at Arsenal, but when you deep it,
it's a decent signing. Like, again, it's like, for me, it's like, yes, you know, how good were they? Fine, 100%. That's part of it. But I look at like value for money, time spent at the club, how long with it. Like Thomas Rosicky signed for like 6 million or something ridiculous, and was I know he was injured a lot. Doesn't make the top of my list, but he's a great signing. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know who else as well? Monreal.
Monreal's a fantastic signing. He should have been somewhere.
It depends, you know what? Because you're looking at it. It depends the metrics. If you're looking for, you know, shrewdest kind of signings, longevity and consistency, naturally, Monreal, Koscielny, Sagna, all of these guys are in the realm.
Yeah.
And then you look at it like changing off, well, not necessarily changing our fortunes, but I do think Santi, Ozu, Alexis, them kind of players will be there. It's an interesting one. You know, we've actually had more good signings than I thought. I would say my hot takes would be Saliba and Declan Rice for me are probably in that bracket, man. But we're digressing, people. As the man said, that's coming out at 2 p.m. on which platform? Different Knock or the Cannon Podcast? Make sure you're subbing to both.
Cannon Pod. Sub to Cannon Pod, actually. Yeah, we need
sub to both of them. Sub to everything, people. Stop being silly. Just sub to everything. Turn on notifications, and then you'll have random videos for you lot to watch in your lunch break or whatever, man. Alex, this has been fantastic. Hopefully, the next time we speak, it's a lot more positive where the football club's concerned, man. As the man said, make sure you're checking out the videos at 2 p.m. There's content. Let me let him get out of here, people. And we hope you lot have enjoyed. Let us know your thoughts and everything. Comment, like, sub, subscribe, all of that YouTube stuff. Safe, man. Alex, one love.
Cheers, mate.
Just always just that active and defending. I think it's like